Hey everyone, this is Bobby Sweeting with Alto Cycling. Today we're going to go through what you can do if you puncture out on a training ride and how to change your flat tire. There's nothing worse than not feeling confident, especially if you're out by yourself, far away from home, and not knowing that you'll be able to get home safely. So the first thing you're going to do if you puncture is to loosen the presta valve and make sure that all the air, any air remaining in the tube, is out, so you get the tube as soft as possible. Then you want to make sure the tire is centered on the rim. There's typically a bit of a relief on the rim, and to make it as loose and as easy as possible to get off, you just push the tire in towards the center to make sure those beads are centered. You want to make sure you have a tire lever in your pocket or in your saddlebag. Push it underneath one half of the bead here. And then you're going to either put the wheel on the ground and push down on it, which can be a little bit easier. You'll gain some leverage that way, or you can just push forward on it. Then you'll go around the entire wheel. Once this whole half of the bead is off, you can go to the opposite side from the valve to pull your punctured tube out. And then when you get to the valve, you can just push the tire back, pull it out. Make sure to put this in your pocket, not on the side of the road. At this point, you can either leave the tire on the rim and carefully run your fingers underneath the tire, inside of it, to check for debris, glass, whatever caused your puncture. If it was a pinch flat, you may not have any debris in there, but always check your tire so that you don't puncture again when you install the new tube. To get the entire tire off, which I'm going to do for the sake of the video, if you want to, you can go through the same process to pull the other half of the bead off. At that point, the entire tire should be loose. You pull it off. Again, this might make it a little bit easier to check for debris, make sure that you'll be good to go. When you're reinstalling the tire, you want to make sure you do two things. Check to make sure, or check to see if it is directional. Some tires aren't, some are. Putting it on in the opposite direction isn't the worst thing in the world, but if the tread is supposed to go one way, it'll be better for wicking water away and gaining traction in corners. So you want to make sure to put it on the right way. The other thing you want to make sure to do is align your label, which we have. Where's the label? There it is. You want to align your label with the valve hole. It just makes it a little bit easier to find the valve when you go to inflate your tire each day. So let's see, this tire goes clockwise, and so we want to put it on this way. You're going to put half the bead on, just wrapping it into the rim bed. Once you get to this point, you should be able to push it on with your fingers. If you can't, you can use your tire lever to sneak that underneath and help you fold it on, like that. We'll take your new tube. Your new tube is going to come with, most likely, a little washer that's threaded on there and a cap. Not entirely necessary. You can reinstall them after the new tube is in, but I typically throw them away. So you'll take your new tube, inflate it with your mouth or with a mini pump, a small hand pump, just to get a little bit of air in the tube. They come really flat and they're easy to pinch flat if you just put them in when they're that deflated. You'll drop the tube in through the valve, and then we're not going to put the tire on yet. We're just going to work the tube into the rim underneath the tire and make sure that it's fully seated inside of the rim bed. Just like that. Once it's seated, you come to the valve, put on the first little bit of the tire, and then you might see a little bit of a bump here. That means the tire is not seated all the way. If you move the valve up and down like that, it'll seat itself, and you can continue along around the tire. Once you get to this point, it gets a little bit tight. If you've got tough hands and strong thumbs, which I don't, you can push the tire on the rest of the way with your thumbs. I like to use a tire lever. You just have to make sure that the tube is seated into the rim bed. If it's not and it's hanging over the edge, you're going to hit it with the tire lever and you're going to get a pinch flat. So grab your lever, hold one corner with your thumb, put the lever at the other corner, and bring it only to 90 degrees. You don't want to lift it up past 90, or you can push the tube into the sidewall or into the brake track of the rim and pinch it. Then you'll move it about an inch, and you just slowly work your way over, and the tube pops right on. So go back to your valve. There's two ways to inflate your new tube. One of them is your mini pump, your hand pump. They're all a little bit different. This one has a hose that unthreads and comes out. This threads onto the presta valve, and then you can get it up to about 100 psi with a good hand pump. So I like to have one in my pocket just in case if you mess up with a CO2 and you can end up stranded. So it's always good to have a hand pump around. Most of the time you'll see an adapter like this, or a fancier one with a trigger and a 16 gram CO2. Of course, make sure your presta valve's unthreaded. That just pushes on to the valve. You thread the CO2 on all the way until it punctures, which I'm not going to do. And then as you unthread the CO2 slowly, it will release the CO2 into the tube. And you can empty out one of these and get about 100 psi into your tube. If you're running our CC56 or CC86 model, you'll likely be using a valve extender. With the valve extender, you'll always want to use the adapter and the CO2. A mini pump won't work as well because it won't thread onto the end of the adapter. So make sure the adapter is snug and threaded on to the valve nice and tight, and then you'll use the adapter just as I showed you. So that's it. You will be good to go and be able to make it home safely. And your family and friends will be grateful that they won't be coming to pick you up in the middle of nowhere. So be sure to check out all of our other videos for more tips and tricks on bike maintenance and of course wheel maintenance, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.